Dom, the Blues Brothers.
Oh my God, you have no idea how much I love this movie. I saw this movie in high school. Sorry to jump right in,
Yeah,
but I saw
why
this
not?
movie when I was in high school, and it sort of became my identity for a brief period of time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a great movie. I was actually really wondering how I was gonna uh, rethink it, like after all these years, because it has been quite a while. I mean, I've seen it more than once, believe me. I've probably seen it 5, 6 times, but yeah, as far as the Blues Brothers goes, like some movies, especially ones that are like something that this came from Saturday Night Live, and so you wonder like how's that gonna replay years later, and I was pleasantly surprised. It's still a fun, it's still a very fun watch, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So, and how can you not like a movie that has Aretha Franklin, who's right behind you right now?
Mhm.
Um, it has Ray Charles. It has
It has John Lee Hooker. It has
Matt
James
Lee, Mac,
Brown.
yeah, McIntyre Murphy, Cab Calloway, Cab
Yes,
Cal,
Cab Calloway.
yeah, and it has it. Look right behind.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, how can even Chaka Khan was in that scene with James Brown, and there's Chaka Khan
Yep.
singing.
Yep.
It's everybody's in that. I mean,
So I can't
but James
remember.
Brown.
I can't remember if it was Siskel or Ebert, but one of them said this movie is it's too over the top for its own good.
Chase, Jace.
And they're absolutely right. Like this movie is pure entertainment.
Yeah,
There's comedy, there's music, there's action,
yeah,
there's romance.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. There is, and the great Carrie Fisher provides the romance. No, it's absolutely hysterical. It's I did wonder how it was going to replay though, because some of the stuff is a little slapsticky, and again, like I thought to myself, this could turn out to be like kind of sloppy, and I really didn't know how I was going to feel about it after all these years. And there is some silliness in it, but it's the silliness works somehow. It just
The
it
thing
pulls it off.
is every single person involved, every single one of them are
Yeah,
pure entertainers. They've been
yeah,
entertaining all their life, and that's what this movie is. Like I could talk about the plot, and I probably will. I probably should at some point.
yeah. Oh
But
yeah,
again, it's another movie that the plot is just incidental to the movie itself. It's action, it's fun, it's a roller coaster ride.
yeah. It is. It's pure fun, and that's its big selling point. Yeah,
Hmm.
and this just I don't know how much you remember of the Blues Brothers, because I was quite young, and you've got 9 years under me. You're 9 years younger, but as far as like early Saturday Night Live, the original Saturday Night Live players, which included Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, um, those two guys, when they were doing Saturday Night Live, they started doing this musical act, and it was a goof. It was fun. They would come out on stage in black suits and sunglasses and do a whole act and sing some blues songs. It was a chance for them to mess around, play, um, and it was sort of funny, but sort of, yeah. And they took it. They would always come out with a briefcase handcuffed to one wrist with the
Yep.
blues things, all
With a
the
harmonic in it.
yes, yeah. It was a fun act. And but that's all everybody envisioned it as, was this silly fun act on SNL. And then out of nowhere, um, I believe the first thing that I heard from with this. If my memory serves correct, it was in an issue of oh, I'm thinking Mad Magazine, but not Mad Magazine. The
National Lampoon.
National Lampoon. There was a story in National Lampoon about the Blues Brothers and Jake and Elwood and how they grew up in an orphanage and Cab Calloway being their being their mentor to teach them about the blues, and the nun who was really tough on them, but at the same
Penguin.
time, well, yeah, the penguin. But at the same time, she still loved them, and they still loved her. So and they were still crazy about the orphanage. So it was all just a lot of fun. And then suddenly out of nowhere, I hear, oh, they're going to make a movie out of this. So that was my background with this. And I don't know how much. And then, of course, hey, we both grew up Catholic, and both of us went to parochial schools, and both of us had nuns for, and I
Oh
had
yeah,
some
we
tough,
definitely resonated with that upbringing. We
yeah,
know what it's like.
oh yeah,
I've
I
been hit with a ruler
oh,
before.
I've been hit with a roller, believe me. And on top of it, I had Sister Frances as the principal at Sacred Heart School in Hampton. Anybody that's my age that knows that knows Sacred Heart School in Hampton, and of course, hey, you had a history in Portsmouth, and you
Yeah,
went
I
to the
went to
great,
St. Patrick's. I don't know if it's still around, but St. Patrick's School.
yeah, and then the great St. Thomas. You went to
Yep.
the great St. Thomas High School in Dover, New Hampshire. So a little background about Dom there. He was top of his class in St. Thomas, but
I was not top of my class, believe
well,
me. I
that was
was
a tough
top 10.
class. That was a top, yeah, but you were pretty high up there. That was a tough. That was a tough class. You went to school with some real smart kids.
I did. I did indeed.
Yeah, I still remember you talking about it was. There was a lot of pressure in that school. You especially if you were up there in the top of your class at all. It was tough just staying there. It
But
was
we digress. We need to
yeah,
talk about Jake and Elwood.
yes, and
So,
this
so let me give the
yeah,
the
give the intro.
basic premise.
Yeah,
Just if anyone has not seen this, and I gotta say, if you haven't seen this and you're watching us, for the love of God,
yeah,
turn it
watch it.
off. See this movie.
Yeah, yeah, watch it. You owe it to yourself.
So Jake and Elwood are the Blues Brothers, and they grew up in an orphanage together. As the movie starts, Jake is leaving Joliet, the
Yep,
prison.
yep,
He's getting
right
out. He's
here.
got to be on parole. And when they reunite, when Jake and Elwood reunite, they learn that their childhood orphanage is going to shut down because the county tax assessor is charging them for back taxes. They need to come up with $5,000 in like a week. And so Jake and Elwood think all is lost until they get a call from above to bring their band back together and do a show and earn the money. So that starts them on a mission from God,
Yeah.
as
Well,
they believe.
the hilarious the hilarious thing first first of all, after this is the scene where behind me right now, where Jake is getting out of Joliet and Dan Aykroyd's meeting him, and he picks him up in an old auction buy of a police cruiser, and the scene that's behind you where they're riding together in the car, and Jake looks at Elwood and he goes, "You picked me up from prison in a police car." And then he's asking him what happened to the microphone. I mean, what happened to what happened to the
To
old
the old
Bluesmobile?
Bluesmobile.
Yes. And he goes, "I traded it for a microphone." And Belushi stops and goes, I can see that." and and then he's like, "Well, how do we get this?" And then he goes, "Well, I made another deal, and then I bought this one at a then I bought this one at an auction." And so when they start talking about the car, back in those days, and this is an old Dodge, but a '74 Dodge, I believe.
Yeah, so this
But
movie came out in 1980.
yeah, Yeah, so this was the car was a few years old, but this was back when you could buy Detroit muscle, and
They, they bought a lot of these cars for around $200 a piece.
you could buy old cruisers for cheap money. And granted, the cars had sat and idled for hours and hours because
Mhm.
of, and sometimes were involved in high speed chases and things like that. But the biggest problem with the cars maybe is a lot of carbon buildup because of idling. But those old V8s, man, you could you could blow the carbon out of them. You just get those cars going on the highway, and as long as the rings weren't shot in them, and they probably weren't, you could blow the carbon out.
So
And
the Bluesmobile,
yeah,
they had 18 of them for this movie.
oh, I'll bet this
E-
movie was for a while was on record for
Yep.
wrecking the most cars in any film. That's how crazy. And the scenes were real stunt scenes with the cars.
Yeah, that's
They-
the thing. There's no CGI.
no,
There's
no.
no tricks. They are actually doing this.
Yeah, this is the real deal with almost all of this stuff. I mean, they even that car, the Nazi car that they dropped, they
Yep.
actually did drop a car. They actually dropped a car from the air. I mean, they did crazy stuff. But what I was just going to say about this, one of the cool factors of buying an auctioned off police cruiser back in the day, and I don't know whether they still do it with specialty equipment on the cars, but when you bought an auctioned off police cruiser, it had these great police. They were cop tires. That was cop suspension. The a lot of the transmissions and the engines were cop engines that were specially. You could get a higher gear ratio in the rear end, so the car accelerated faster, and the engines again. Uh, Bigger mills a lot of times that weren't available to the general public. So again, um, there was a reason why that was cool to be able to buy an old cop car, and the very fact that they're riding around in suits and everybody's mistaking them for being caught. Nope, no, ma'am, we're not cops. We're musicians. But yeah, all around a fun movie. So
And like the music, like this again, I just can't get over how much this movie had. But to focus on the music, they had some top-notch talent.
yeah. Oh,
We've already
McIntyre
talked about
Murphy right there.
recognizable names: Aretha Franklin, James Brown, Johnny Lee Hooker, Cab Calloway. But like the Blues Brothers band themselves, um, uh, who was it? Which one? So Steve Cropper, who was
Oh
the lead
yeah, yeah.
guitarist, he co-wrote "In the Midnight Hour" with Wilson Pickett.
Right, right.
He co-wrote "The Dock of the Bay" with Otis Redding.
Wow, wow.
In
Yeah,
1996, he was named the greatest living guitar player by Britain's Mojo magazine.
yeah, yeah, and not mentioned as much anymore. But my God, So yeah, they actually did have this. I mean, this whole thing was the Blues Brothers themselves. It was a bit of a novelty act. It wasn't like Aykroyd and Belushi had real musical talent, but they appreciated good music. They had the smarts to surround themselves with some guys that knew how to lay it down, and they were having fun with it. And I say more power to them. If anything, they brought a lot of recognition back to a lot of these musicians and probably revived some of their acts. I mean, but but no, it was I think they toured for a little while
Yeah,
together,
oh
didn't
yeah,
they?
yeah,
The
they
Blues
did.
Brothers, yeah. So, but yeah, like I said, just pulling together the acts they did for this movie.
You know who wrote the screenplay for this?
I I thought it was John Landis and Aykroyd.
It was mostly Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, yeah,
So when this movie was first pitched between Saturday Night Live and Animal House, John Belushi was such a hot property that there was a huge bidding war for this movie, even though there was no screenplay at all. And so when they got the rights, when Universal got the rights, um, uh, no one wanted to write the screenplay. They couldn't find someone to write it. So Aykroyd, never having written a screenplay, said, "Screw it, I'll write it."
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, he was a strong writer on SNL,
Mhm.
and he was so the guy knew how to write comedy, and yeah, I think it's probably a lot harder to. But these guys were a comedy team anyway. Belushi and Aykroyd just clicked when they were together. So if you could write anything that was tailored around them, and he was used to writing for him and John because they worked together on SNL. So that probably helped right there. And I think the guy really had something in his head of who the Blues Brothers were. So I think it just came rolling out of him. But no, it's not like, oh yeah, and the great John Candy. Come on, let's not. And there's a line in this, and he's saying it right here, I think. But there's a line in this, and you used to quote it a lot just as a joke, would be out somewhere and that orange whip, free orange whips.
The orange whips.
so, that still is in my head to this day. If I'm at a place that serves ice cream or whatever, it's like or anything that possibly could go right through my head is the line orange whip, three orange whips. So yeah, there's some great lines in this, and Candy is like the cool cop. He shows up there. All the other cops want to arrest them, and he's just like, "Well, I'd like to see their act first." So, yeah, he's kind of the cool one of the.
And there's
Oh,
so many cameos.
Twiggy, Twiggy, yeah. And the hysterical thing is she's kind of playing herself.
Mhm.
She's in her Jaguar, and Elwood's hitting on her, and he goes, "Well, if you're not doing anything later on, maybe I'll meet you up by the by the strip there, up by the motel." She's like, "By the motel?" Like he makes this like crude move on her, and then she's like, "Well, if I'm not doing anything, and damned if she isn't there." But
Yeah, I gotta tell you, like it's a complete cohesive movie, but
yeah,
at the same time, it almost feels like Saturday Night Live in that it's one skit after another.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Absolutely, for sure. And I love the fact that Carrie Fisher does the cameo in this. She plays
Mhm.
this like strange woman that you never really fully get the story of, like, all you find out later that he abandoned her in front of her family at the
In the
altar.
credits, she's only listed as Mystery Woman.
Yeah, yeah. And she was talking about how she had to fire all these weapons. She goes, I'm not like a gun girl. She goes, I'm not like into like butch stuff, but like trying to do. She goes, a lot of girls really get off on shooting guns and firing. So she goes, I wasn't. She goes, but I still had fun in this movie. So yeah, she just made a cool cameo. In real life, Carrie Fisher was one cool chick. She had a great sense of humor. She could probably out dirty most people with her sense of humor. She was just crazy. So any movie she's in was going to be more fun. And they
She was
rounded
she was
up. What's that?
she was dating that Dan Aykroyd at the time.
Was she dating? I wasn't sure because there were a couple of scenes where I saw her sitting next to Belushi. He looked like he was really into her. So I'm not surprised because Dan Aykroyd and her would have fit really well.
Oh yeah.
Um, she was a cool chick, very cool chick. But yeah, they just managed to pull together a terrific cast. Even the nun, um, she was a character actress. She was in tons of TV shows, movies. She did voice for cartoons, for everything. I can't think of her name offhand. Unfortunately, can you pull her name up or?
I'm
Um,
sure I can.
but she again, it's actually I'm doing her an injustice because by not
That's Kathleen Freeman.
yes, that's who it is. And again, she was Now, another little bit of trivia: this scene here, where she's whacking the hell out of them, and this I can't see a nun with a ruler whacking somebody without having fond memories of some of the nuns that I've known over the years, because I've known some with some terrific sense of humors, and I've also known some with some pretty bad tempers. But this scene here where they start swearing, it comes from Belushi saying, "Well, you said that you wouldn't take my money," and then I said, "Well, I guess you're fucked." And when he says that, that's when she starts. And every time she hits them, they go, "Oh shit! Oh!" So they continue to be hit. Well, in this scene, when they flee the room, you see Aykroyd get out of the desk and get down the stairs. Belushi couldn't get out of the desk and decided to take the pratfall down the stairs. He hurt himself.
Oh yeah, he was on painkillers.
Yeah. Apparently, he was wearing a back brace for most of the movie, and yeah, he was on painkillers because of it. He went right down the stairs on that desk. So
I mean, he got injured so much. You know how in the big finale when they're doing their show to a packed crowd,
yeah,
and like Belushi's dancing around, he's doing cartwheels.
yeah.
Yeah, well, just before that was filmed, like I don't know, a day or two before, he tried to ride a skateboard. He was fooling around on a skateboard. He fell, seriously injured his knee. Like he could barely move it.
Oh man,
So
yeah.
someone on set convinced an orthopedic surgeon to delay their vacation and come and like numb up that knee.
Wow, wow.
So
Well,
he was doing that on a severely injured knee.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I remember on SNL, he was a very physical comedian. I mean, Chris Farley was kind of like that, but he was like Chris Farley, except he was a slimmer version of Chris Farley, and he could do even more. And Chris Farley did a lot, but Belushi, he would do backflips. He would do all kinds of crazy stuff. I don't think that scene in the church when he does backflips from front to back. I don't think that's him.
You
But
know what? You could say that, but like when I was talking to Lisa, Lisa watched this movie with me. When I was talking to her, I told her that the Blues Brothers originated as a Saturday Night Live skit.
yeah, yeah,
And she didn't know that. So I called up a video on YouTube. I re-showed one of their performances.
right.
And during a live on stage Saturday Night Live performance, Belushi did cartwheels and backflips.
Yeah. I honest to God, I will say this. I have definitely seen him do backflips and cartwheels on SNL. So when I saw that in the church, I thought that can't be him. And then at the same time, I always had a doubt in my mind, like, well, maybe it was, or maybe part of it
It
was.
was.
But because he actually could do, he was very physical, very acrobatic. I mean, hey, the when you see when you see the House of Blues and you see those figurines, wherever you see those figurines, they're look how they're moving. They were always dancing and moving around, and yeah, you'd see Belushi's cartwheels and backflips. So
Now, of course, a lot of that was cocaine.
yeah, well, that's
So,
probably
so
very
I
true.
mean, if you're some of the stories out of the making of is
Yeah.
that out of the budget for this movie, they had a fair amount of that budget set aside solely for cocaine.
Oh, I believe that. I definitely, and I believe probably two-thirds of the set was probably
Oh,
including
yes.
a lot of the stars
The,
were
the
probably
director, John Landis, hired someone whose specific job, their only job, was to keep Belushi away from cocaine.
what you wow. Yeah. Yeah.
I can't even imagine having that job.
Well, there's a story that I was reading that Aykroyd was talking about, and he said Belushi one night when they were filming, because they were filming late night a lot of pretty much every night, and they were filming in a neighborhood, and Belushi's gone. Nobody can find him.
Yep.
And so they're all looking around, and Aykroyd just had this feeling. so he starts walking around the neighborhood. He walked up to a house and the porch light was on and everything. He walked up to the house and he knocks on the door and the guy opens the door and goes, "You looking for John Belushi?" He came into the house. The guy invites him in, and Belushi's asleep on the couch. And there was a plate, and there was a half finished sandwich, and a half finished glass of milk. And he said, "Yeah, he just came over and asked if I could make him a sandwich and get him a glass of milk." And he had the sandwich, the glass of milk, and he fell asleep. And he said, "Yeah," he said he was tired. And he said, "I called him." I think he said it was America's comedian because
No, America's Guest.
oh, okay, yes, America's guest. Yeah, because he said you'd never know like where the guy would turn up. But he said, yeah, that was John. So crazy John Belushi. But it's too bad we lost him at a time
Oh,
where so many people were doing coke and everything else, and he was on a tear. And it's unfortunate because again, the guy very talented and very funny. I could have seen a lot more out of him. I mean, people remember him for Animal House probably as much as anything, and I think he's
he would have been another Rodney Dangerfield. He would have
yeah,
been of that echelon.
yeah. Yeah, there's so much one of my favorite movies, and actually when you picked this one, and it was probably one of my worries about whether or not I would enjoy this as much as I did on a rewatch years later. And that was my favorite movie that they did, I will have to say, is Neighbors. I love the movie Neighbors. And
Okay,
we are going to have to revisit that. That is it's a weird, perverse movie.
it is. It is. I don't recall loving it as much, but
Yeah, it was a movie that I don't think the critics liked it at all. I think it's a movie that for the critics, I think they looked at that movie as being like it was too weird. It was too weird for prime time. It was, the SNL, it was they were the not ready for prime time players.
I mean,
And
it wasn't as bad as 1941.
no, no,
Oh
that
my
yeah, I
God, I
agree.
can remember seeing that. And again, I love Belushi, and that movie was so bad.
Yeah, that movie, I think there was too much coke going on there. But that movie was probably a little bit too clouded with with too much coke. But no, I think with the Blues Brothers and Neighbors, I think those were probably their two stellar roles, and I love Neighbors. We'll 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 have to tackle Neighbors at some point, but
Well, we've got a lot of movies. Like, add that to the list.
oh my, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, we haven't even we, we haven't even finished with this one, but and I've already got my choice picked out for next week, so that's how. And another person that's in this movie is Henry Gibson,
Yep.
the capless Nazi there, where the other guy when they're falling in the car and his Nazi friend looks at him and goes, "I always loved you." And he just kind of looks over.
This was one of the inspirations. They were one of the inspirations for this movie. There's so much, like, there's such a resurgence of Nazis these days. I'm like, I hate Illinois
Oh,
Nazis.
that was so damn funny when he runs him off the bridge. Yeah, he goes he says, "What's the holdup to the
What's the
cop?"
holdup?
Yeah, he goes, "That's the Illinois Nazis. They're protesting." And he goes, "I hate it." Runs him right off the bridge. Uh, that's there's so many hysterical scenes in this. Um, and again, these were all stunts they actually did. This
Right.
this this shot here, this is done. Aykroyd looks at Belushi and he goes, "You saying you don't like the car?" And he's like, "No, I don't like the car." and and he takes it flying over the bridge and he goes, "I guess we can keep it." but but no, it's just a great movie. It's so well done, and I have to say, for two guys, that were really just SNL players of the
Two
time,
goofs.
two goofs, and they managed to pull together a really fun movie that to this day people revere this movie. There's a cult following around this film, as well as there should be.
It's yeah, deserved, totally
Yes,
deserved. It's an incredibly long film.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
over 2 hours long, and I love every minute of it.
yeah, yeah. It's it's so damn fun. I mean, from the time, even when they got out of the car at the orphanage, and Belushi's like, "Yeah, I'm not going." And he goes, you said you'd go see the penguin." And when they go in there, and they managed to even make that scene that could have been so stupid, and they managed to make that scene fun and funny.
I mean, this scene where just as he's getting
Yeah,
out and returning his belongings,
yeah. Well,
I mean, that was hilarious.
that whole thing with the because I don't have the one picture I don't have is where he's leaning over the counter.
Oh
And
yeah.
yes, I actually wanted to grab a shot of that because they made him step back to the line, and when you see how far away the line is, the line is like 4 foot away, and then
Oh,
they
probably more.
yeah, probably more. Yeah, because when he says to him, "Okay, go ahead and sign," when he actually goes to make him sign, he has to like just pitch himself forward. But and then of course one used prophylactic.
So do you know who that is?
He's he's a character actor, but I
Oh, he's a puppeteer. This is Frank Oz. He's done
yeah.
most of his work on the Muppets.
Okay, all right. Well, okay, not who I was thinking it was, but okay, Frank Oz. All right.
You know, the amount of cameos they had in this was just amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, the other thing, this particular shot up the stairs, there's so many cool things with this film. But every time I see this shot on subsequent viewings, when I see that shot of the Jesus up at the top of the stairs, I immediately start thinking of Carrie, the movie Carrie, because there's a very scary scene in Carrie, that closet that the mother would throw Carrie
Yep.
into to punish her. There's this scary statue that like has a light up face or whatever, and it's like looking down. I think it's like a scary Jesus or something, and that's kind of what's at the top of the stairs, and you're like, oh no, it's the Carrie shot. But no, again,
Do you
oh,
know who that is?
is that Landis?
No,
Who
Steven
is that?
Spielberg.
Oh, it's okay because they used to make cameos. Those two used to be friends, and they
Yeah.
used to make cameos in each other until the Twilight Zone.
Oh,
That
man.
ended their yeah. Unfortunately, that ended their friendship. There was a lot of stuff being thrown back and
And
forth,
Landis got slapped down for that, and probably rightly so.
rightly so. But at the same time, I still have think that probably I mean, Landis did not certainly not like wish or envision any of that happened to happen, and he was probably playing a little too fast and loose. But and it's very unfortunate that you had three
Yeah,
dead
for
people.
anyone watching that doesn't know what we're talking about, Landis was the director on the movie The Twilight Zone. I can't remember what year.
One of the episodes, yeah,
And
the
so
Vic Morrow one.
he the incident was a flashback to Vietnam, and there was a helicopter involved, and there were child actors involved. And I don't know exactly what happened, but it was a helicopter accident that ended up decapitating Vic Morrow.
And one or both of the kids.
Mhm.
Um, the helicopter, I think, had a hard landing, came in on them, and there was the shoot wasn't. They were having a bad night. They were
Mhm.
shooting late, far past what they should have shot at. This is all stuff from my memory, and the unfortunate part of it was the night ended with um, a hard landing on the copter. Just what happened, I don't know. But when the copter came in, it didn't come down right, and unfortunately, three people died, and I believe all three of them died. And yeah, Vic Morrow, that was the sensationalism press was that the kids in Morrow were decapitated.
Yeah.
So
But
but
Landis got reprimanded, and it actually inspired an entire shift in child labor laws for
yeah,
Hollywood.
yeah. Well, and I probably still violate those, but anyway, I don't have a whole lot of respect for Hollywood. The it's kind of like working for an industrial place, but it's
Man, we could do a whole video on the horrors of child actors,
yeah, we probably should sometime do
pre-50s.
yeah, we probably should and could. So just some of the stories I've heard over the years, just from press that I've heard. But anyway, when you show up at a bar, this is one of the funny running things that was going on. They got the band, they got to pull the band back together. They managed to convince most or all of the musicians to come back. The only problem is they're promising them big gigs, and what they're not telling them is that they want to raise the money first and foremost for the orphanage, not for the band. And the band doesn't really even realize it. They don't even have any gigs, and they just pull up to a bar because the band is at the end of their rope saying, Where are we working? And just, what'd you get us for gigs? And they pull up there. They're taking the place of the Good Old Boys, a country and western band. When they show up at the bar, they go, What kind of music do you play here? Oh, we play both kinds, country and western. And there's chicken wire across the stage. And when you see chicken wire across the stage, be prepared to have some bottles thrown at you. But I see you have this great scene behind you.
Well, this is how they convinced some of the members of the band to
Yes.
join, to
Oh
come
yeah.
back.
It was coercion at its finest. And who is that right behind your head, Dom?
That is Pee Wee Herman.
Yes, the great Pee Wee Herman. He has a cameo in this as a waiter. It's not
Oh,
even a it's not even a big role, but again, it's one of those little scenes where it's like, yeah, Pee Wee Herman's in this movie
he's
too.
got one line.
Yeah, yeah. I'm telling you though, there are so many memorable lines in this movie, and Belushi is at the top of his game.
Oh my God. How
The
much do you want for your woman? The
yes,
little
yeah,
girl.
yeah, and he's telling the waiter that they're trying to get the maitre d'. He's telling him that's who they want back, and he's a horn player in their band, and he's going, please guys, just go away, just go away. He goes, no, we're going to come back here every night, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and of course there they are eating shrimps. Um, but yeah, that's a hilarious scene. Anybody who's watching us now that has not seen this movie, you really owe it to yourself. There's no reason not to see this movie.
The movie is so easy to find. It's so ubiquitous. I'm sure it's on YouTube. Um, and it's just, oh my God, it's got so much. It's got comedy, action. If you're at all into Motown or the blues, the
Yeah,
music is top notch.
yeah, yeah. If you haven't seen this movie, um, I can't say I know a ton of places to stream it from. However, there are places if you this is worth a rental if you've never seen it. Just rent it because it's available to rent certainly on Vudu, but Prime, Amazon Prime has it. I'm sure it's available on Apple TV. There
It's
probably is a
everywhere. I'm willing to bet it's everywhere.
yeah. So I mean, if you can't find it to stream free, there's a place that will rent it to you and rent it for cheap money.
This
So
movie is a national treasure.
it is, it
This
is, and
movie is America to me.
it is. It's a slice of America. It's certainly a slice of the American blues and music scene.
Oh
It's
my God, seeing old Chicago.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's another thing. Those old neighborhoods, the car chases. If you're somebody that likes car chases, there's tons of them here. There's there's so much. They wreck so many cars in this it's well worth the stunts that they do with these cars is unbelievable. Cars flying everywhere.
And
They actually raced a car 100, the Bluesmobile. They I probably was Aykroyd and Belushi driving it 118 miles an hour under one of the elevated L's.
mhm.
So I mean, crazy stuff going on in this movie.
So Elwood's apartment, the
Yeah,
place he brings
yeah,
Jake to,
yeah,
one of the things Lisa laughed most about is there's trains going by, and John Belushi goes, "How often do those pass by?" And the answer Aykroyd gives is, "So often you won't even notice."
yeah, yes, yeah, yeah. That's when you. Well, I'll tell you what. I lived not certainly not a subway, but or an elevated car, but I lived near a train for many years in North Berwick, Maine, and I lived so close to that train, and it would come by sometimes 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and it lays down on the horn as he's going through, and so yeah, like I said, I'm used to the sound of a train and even the horn, and you do get used to them. Surprisingly, if they run often enough, you're like, yeah, I don't even notice anymore. It just comes through.
That reminds me. So, like, I've seen that, we've talked about movies, and there's a number of movies that you've said, "Oh, I put this on at least once a year."
Yeah, yep,
That is this movie for me. There aren't like that seems insane to me that I would watch something that often. I watch this movie that often. And the funny thing is I've only watched the theatrical release. And what I watched on Vudu, you've got the unrated, like director's version or something.
yes, yep.
I got to see scenes I had never seen before.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Awesome. Well, yeah, and that's another thing. I don't care for anyone who hasn't watched this movie. There is really nothing offensive in this movie. That's certainly not, unless you'd have to be really prim and proper.
I'm sure some people out there would be offended by something, but for the most
There's
part,
there's there's a little language. So if language offends you, um, it's do you know that this movie is actually because the Catholic Church can be pretty strict about movies that they feel slander or blaspheme or whatever with. This is actually on the Catholic recommended list.
wow,
Yes,
I didn't know that.
I was surprised. I didn't know that myself, and that actually really cracked me up. But they actually felt like it was something. These kids were raised in an orphanage. That relative, I mean, they're crooks, but they're relatively good guys.
I mean,
And
they're Robin Hood
yes,
crooks.
yeah, they are. They're Robin Hood,
They're
and
doing
so
this to save the orphanage.
yeah, yeah, to help kids out and the church, and so yeah, like I said, it's actually got a recommendation by by the Catholic Church as
It's
something Catholic.
strangely wholesome.
Yes, so you say what you want, but yes, um, and this is another scene that I actually truly love when they open up the gates and he's backlit behind as he's walking out, coming up the ramp to get out of prison. He's lit up. It's already like, no, he's already preordained. He's got to do this mission from God. So,
The
uh,
camera work in this is awesome, bar
yes,
none.
it is. It's actually. I mean, I don't know what their budget was, but
Oh my God, they went so over budget.
I'll bet. Oh, I'll bet because there's no way they could have done this on the budget that they were
So
originally
so
given.
I'm seeing $27.5 million dollars.
Okay.
Back
But
in 1980. I don't know what that is adjusted for
yeah,
now.
yeah, I don't either, and I don't know. I would assume that was still considered moderate for back then, but and I have to say James Brown's your preacher. This
So Dan Aykroyd had some
yeah
clashes with John Landis.
Really?
about some of these musical acts because he wrote them in the script as speaking acts. And John Landis was like, oh, well, yeah, I can see having the music in. I don't want to actually give them a role.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, yeah, but Aykroyd was firm and the movie
Yeah,
was made.
yeah. Well, that was actually really smart because, like this scene here where this is this is the scene where yeah, John Belushi he actually he gets the vision, he gets the light. That it's because he walks in, they're basically telling him you've got to go to church. You actually really have to go to church.
You
You got to
got to
get
get
right with
yourself to
God.
church.
Yeah. And he's like, nope, don't want to do it. He's standing there. He keeps looking at his watch. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the light just hits him.
Have
He
you seen the light?
yeah, he goes, yes, yes. And that's when he starts doing the forward flips and the back flips. And that was the other thing. The dancers in the church, everything was just that's such a fun scene in that church. But
This is one of my all-time favorite movies. To me,
yeah,
this movie has everything,
yeah, yeah,
which is
it
why
does.
we shall not talk about the Blues Brothers 2000.
Oh, yes, I hear exactly what you're saying because yes, they did do a remake. I have never
Not a remake.
yeah. Yeah, that's true. Not a remake. It was unfortunately it probably would as bad as it would have been trying to do a remake without John. Um, the fact that they were trying to do a sequel without John, um, it was an abomination. I never saw the movie. I've seen parts of the movie.
I think I tried to start watching it and I was
Yeah.
just, oh God, I was disgusted. I'm
I think
sorry.
I started to watch it. I know I saw a trailer and I was like, wow, why? Why are you doing this,
Don't
Dan Aykroyd?
tarnish my memory.
Yeah. Because it's Goodman and Aykroyd, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And I mean I like Goodman and no knock on John Goodman.
I mean,
And
John Goodman's a great actor.
and yep, and no knock on Dan Aykroyd. I love Dan Aykroyd. But no, that was just a bad idea.
So I read a little bit about that movie, and I can't remember if it was Siskel and Ebert. I want to say it was Siskel. He wrote of the Blues Brothers 2000. Um, it it's a movie with a lot of great musical acts that are only interrupted by the story, which it would have been better if they had left the story out.
Wow. Wow. What a convoluted but also deep meaning behind. Um, the other thing that is I found really hilarious because when they did this when they did this movie and it leads up to this incredible chase scene. They've got the army or the National Guard after them. They've got every the state
There's
cops, the
tanks
local,
rolling out.
yeah, everybody's after them. And so when they finally pay the orphanage bill, and they get the receipt for it, it's all good and done. And as soon as they've got the receipt in their hand, a cuff goes on their wrist. And I'm thinking to myself, good luck getting out of this one. Well, they don't. They don't,
They don't.
which lead, which leads to the scene behind me where they are actually in prison at the end of the film, and they're actually having a lot of fun in prison. The whole band is in prison with them, and
We were watching this, and Lisa was like, "Why are the band in prison? Like, what did they do?"
well, aiding and abetting. I don't know. I'm sure they thought of something, uh, but but yeah, the very fact that the whole band was in there with them, I can't imagine that for all the chase and all the costs and all the craziness that went on, I can't imagine they probably did more than a couple of years because
I mean, like, none of this was reality. This
oh
is
yeah,
this whole thing was a total fantasy. The In the car stunts, the cars did things that were physically
oh,
impossible.
of course,
In the opening act, when Jake and Elwood are late and the crowd's getting restless, and Cab Calloway goes into Minnie the Moocher. His costume changes entirely as soon as the curtain comes up. I mean,
Yeah,
this again, all I can say is
this is
over the
fun.
top. This
Yeah,
movie, it's so jam-packed with so many things that are so inventive and so creative.
yeah.
I absolutely love this movie.
Well, this scene here where they're trying to get Guitar Murphy behind me, and Aretha Franklin's his wife, and she's standing there in the background, and it leads into her singing "Think." You better think, and which is one of her great tunes. But I mean, come on, Aretha Franklin, the great Aretha Franklin. There's nobody like Aretha Franklin, and
Nope.
they got her in here. Ray Charles. They
Ray
they go into
Charles.
they go into a music store. A kid's trying to steal a guitar. He pulls a gun out and shoots above the kid's head. Doesn't hit the guitar, and he goes, "You better not try that, son." And the kid just takes off running out of the store. And then one of them makes a crack about the keyboard, and he goes, "That sounds a little flat." He goes, "I don't think this keyboard's flat." And he proceeds to go on and start playing. And it's like, wow, the great Ray Charles. This is the, Cab Calloway gets on stage and does a Minnie the Moocher. I mean, come on. Yeah, this scene behind you. It's
So this scene behind me had 100 people dancing in the
yeah,
street.
yeah,
It was
shake a tail
supposed to be
feather.
summer.
What's that?
It was supposed to be summer. And so they're dressed in like short
Yeah,
sleeves and blah, blah.
yeah,
It was 25 degrees out
really,
in
really.
Chicago during that scene.
Boy, yeah, the Windy City. Yeah, not good. But man, I'll tell you, like some of the street scenes of Chicago, the street scenes with the car chases. It, people, if you haven't seen this movie, you must see this movie. It's the Great Blues Brothers. It's a
I,
fantastic movie.
am giving it two thumbs up, and I'm doing that now because I could go on about this movie for hours,
Yeah,
and I don't want to bore anyone.
yeah.
And so I'm thinking, let's just call it. I agree. If
I
you
have to
haven't
give
seen
it
this
more.
movie, see this
I have
movie.
to give it more than that it's that good. This is this oddly enough, and I would probably wouldn't have said this when I first watched it because you were living it at the time, but like this movie is a movie that to me is it's achieved cult status. It's that good.
This
It's
has
a kind of
cultural importance. It
yeah,
encapsulated an era.
yeah. If if you haven't seen this movie, do yourself a favor, check it out. Especially if you like movies that have music and good music, cool funky music. I mean, there's so many like songs from the '60s that were just like these funky soul tunes. This movie has it. It's
Our
kind
first
of
musical, Mike.
yeah, yeah, probably so. Absolutely. And hey, I'm straight, but I like musicals. What can I say? But but um but no, it's this movie definitely has terrific numbers by you know people in the music industry that deserve the recognition and the showcasing. It has it. So whatever you're into for a movie, if you're someone that likes car chase movies or car chase scenes, this one has it. If you like music, this one has it.
You
If
like
you like good
comedy.
comedy, a terrific number of cool cameos by great guest stars. This has it. It's just high recommendation. So yeah, uh, can't say can't say too much beyond that. I think those are high praises enough.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I again, I could gush for days about this movie.
yeah, yeah. No, this is one. There's no way that you would get either one of us to get into um, any kind of a disagreement. I think on this one, if maybe if we were going to disagree, it might be no, I like the movie more. No, I do. It's that kind of a that kind of a feeling about it. So yeah, there are certain movies. Again, you and I are close enough in age and growing up. There's certain movies that we both saw around the same time that I think we kind of look back with a lot of nostalgia, and this is one of them. So for sure. But no, please, if anyone watching, if you would, please leave a like and subscribe if you would. We appreciate the support.
So it's your turn to choose next. Have you thought of one?
Um, well, there's been a few movies that I've been tossing around, and I kind of, even though when next week hits, and we'll probably be this one, is going to be this one's going up this Saturday, the Blues Brothers, but next week, when we do our next viewing, the next one goes up the following Saturday, which is going to be after St. Patrick's Day. However, I still feel like the need to do a kind of an Irish type movie.
Or close
So,
enough.
what? Yeah. So I kind of feel like I owe it to us to do an Irish one. So I was floating the idea, and I'm probably going to hold off on uh, the one that I was really wanting to do in favor of doing one that I feel is a great movie and also has an Irish theme to it, um, certainly an Irish background, um, and that is Miller's Crossing.
Okay.
It's the Great Miller's Crossing, and that's what I'm picking, which is going to sort of tie in. It's a gangster movie, um, but a great story uh, behind it, and hey, it's a Coen Brothers movie. So, yep, I went with that in favor of another one that was very much on, and probably will come up sometime during
I
this.
know you're wanting to choose Boondock Saints.
Well, believe me, that was one of the ones in contention. That was actually not. Boondock Saints was in the running, and I came up with. I'll say the one that I almost picked, and that is the Banshees of Inisherin, and which is a really terrific movie. But I have found that some people have a strong dislike to part of the theme behind the movie because it is, shall we say, gory. So
Never
um,
stopped us before.
it never stopped us before. And I love the movie, but I've had a few people react quite negatively to watching it. So like I said, that's definitely one that I am going to pick for. I'm saving that for a later talk. But yep, Miller's
Hey,
Crossing
you
for
heard
next
it here
week.
first. Miller's Crossing.
Yes, Miller's Crossing. So yep, we will see you guys next week. Uh, I think um, I think this one we've said everything we could say, but please, guys, if you could share it, leave a like, leave a subscribe, show your support for us. We're a very small channel, and we're trying to bring you guys, a little bit of
We're bringing
movie.
you culture, damn it.
Exactly. What price culture, come on. In return for that, we ask that you just like, subscribe, please forward it to your friends, share it if you would, but and comment if you would, and suggest movies that you want us to talk about. So even if it's one we haven't seen, we love catching a new one that we haven't seen and either like or dislike, whatever. We enjoy checking them out. So Dom, until next week, and
Until next week.
yeah, to our faithful our faithful viewers. So we'll catch you all next week. Bye.